Good afternoon, everyone. Rampant shortages, 116 pharmaceuticals. Shortages, diesel limits, rations, Europe. Soaring food prices globally. Joe Biden says we'll experience food shortages. Oh no, we won't. Wartime Emergencies Act, fertilizer, herbicide, America now. London Metals Exchange, 15% limit on all metals. And the pink countries, naughty countries for Russia. 40% of world's palladium refined, exported from Russia. Of that, 27%, a full quarter, goes to the United States, hence the limit up trading. Russia moving to a petro Bitcoin. And you can see in Singapore why there's a 5x increase in precious metals buying. And growing your own food is basically printing your own money as we move forward. The new normal? Uncertainty is the new normal. War, pandemics, partisan politics, and Jerome Powell. There's a consistent sense of tension, fear, and anxiety since this pandemic. The stock market's gotten crushed, our national debt soared, and inflation pummeling most Americans. Since March 2020, gold's up 30% and silver doubling. Now we have Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo all forecasting gold well above $2,000 an ounce in 2022, and even potential price targets of $3,000. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has the no fee for life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no fee for life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Call 1-800-356-4470 for a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And a moment of zen in the madness. We need moments like this to reflect that in nature, we can produce our own food and water and shelter and abundance. It's a hopeful time through the danger that we're seeing across the planet. Medical supplies to Russia could be hindered due to sanctions. Western drug makers warning their plans to sell to Russia could be complicated by economic sanctions. True. But when we swing into the rampant shortages of 116 different pharmaceutical drugs in the United States, now we start to get into this Rubik's Cube of something very important for humanity: medicines. Also, fuel shortages and rationing now hitting the EU. Poland right now imposing a 500-liter or 132-gallon max fill. And all the Western nations from Shell to BP that were dealing with Russia to get the crude and refine, not going to be doing that any longer. But take into consideration how much a combine is going to use in a single fill in farm machinery. Got to till, need to plant. What about spreading the fertilizer, herbicides? Oh wait, there aren't any. Very, very limited supply, and supply chains across most of Europe going into the Black Sea region are not forthcoming, blocked, or completely shut. But we need the fuels to produce the food. This is going to be the first part of Humpty Dumpty's arm that breaks off, rolling down a Himalayan cliff, spilling off the edge of a 1,000-foot vertical drop, followed by rubble and landslides crushing what is at the bottom after the fall, is where we're going basically with this. So the European oil and gas spreads, wow. Every time we look, it's vertical. I don't care what you're looking at commodities-wise, it is vertical. There's never been an instance like this, at least in known recorded history, where everything has gone up so fast in unison across the planet. Here we go, European natural gas. What's related to natural gas? Oh, the fertilizer price, which loops right back into the diesel shortages and diesel rationing. When is this going to end? Should be the question. Now, if you're looking at the fertilizer price index, it's already eclipsed the record highs of the financial crisis, 2008 and 9, and we're nowhere near the top on this yet. Really, well, I could say that could go to 3,000 easily with what's happening currently across the planet. So when we take a look at the raw material fertilizer index, all eyes on urea, ammonia, but see, that comes from refineries and morphing natural gas production into ammonia, which we need for, again, a raw material to produce fertilizers. Phosphorus, potash, wherever you look, up and up and up. And again, it's replicating vertical, vertical, vertical. And this is urea. Again, a raw material for fertilizer production. And you're telling me that these major price rises are going to have no effect on your food prices coming to a store near you right now? This reminds me of that Star Trek episode when they had the triplets, those cute little furry things that there was 1, and then there was 2, and then there was 4, and then there was 8, and the whole ship was full of them. And they had a real difficult time getting those creatures out. Just like this. First it was the nickel, then it was the aluminum, then it was the oil, then it was the natural gas, then it was the fertilizer, now it's the raw materials, and everywhere you look it's doubling and doubling and tripling and quadrupling across the planet in every single commodity sector. Same but different. And signs now appearing in the supermarkets, leafy greens, recent weather patterns causing multiple quality issues. Forget the fertilizers, lack of herbicides. No, don't include that. It's just weather. Can't blame the supply chain. Got to be something natural. See how the deflection's going on there. We'll do the best to keep it in stock, but you know what? We're not going to be able to, and we're going to go into shortages and rationing. Make sure to bring your digital ration card with you to purchase a head of lettuce next time. Thanks. But growing your own food is like printing your own money, and it's truly an understatement right here. Because moving forward, we're all going to have to grow our own food, or at least supplement something into that. Now, microgreens are incredibly easy to grow. That'd be a great start. Learn about microgreens first, and then, out of an entire tray, when you're going to bring some of those up, there's always going to be some that you miss. And those could be your starters that then you put out into the garden. So waste not, want not, use everything, waste nothing. We're going to have to think about self-sufficiency and home production for a lot of these, what is now soon to be not available leafy greens, meats, etc. So know your local farmer, know your neighbors better, find out where you can get local inputs from around your area to be able to grow food, understand where your farm co-ops are, cross your fingers and hope for the best of availability moving through, because in my area, there's 6 types of fertilizer left out of about 30 that were there last year. So it's really getting pinched on the availabilities of the types of fertilizer, triple 19, triple 10, but I still have not found that 6-12-12 that I've been looking for, and the 12-24-24, just not around. I'm gonna have to mix my own. And again, are you gonna get 4500 or 4600 and then kind of weigh that out and go find some phosphorus and then mix the correct proportions in there? Yeah, it can be done, but you have to have a little basic math knowledge and a scale, and you're going to have bulk 50-pound bags, 40-pound bags of any of those, and then start mixing them yourself. Now, I don't know a lot of people that are really ready for that level of getting your production up, but that's the way we're going to trend. Specifics for fruiting and flowering coming up in the season on your trees, fruit trees, for me specifically, but also when you're thinking about any types of fruits, or even vegetables. I consider tomato a fruit. Some others would say it's a veggie. Same thing. When it comes up, you're going to want it to go to max yield on that. So you're going to have to add fertilizers to it. Know your farmer. Maybe you can get some cow dung. Who knows? We're going into such an unknown time right now, but one thing for sure, you're going to have to learn how to grow your food. Work with your neighbors, share with your neighbors, and come at it together that 8, 12, 16 people can produce way more food than a family of 2 or 4. It's time to get your communities ready. Now, speaking of that, the global community, everywhere you look, prices up, prices up, prices up, not available. McDonald's Japan, rising food costs, grain prices soaring across the world. Yeah, food security is a major issue. Taiwan, did you know, had a huge egg shortage? And Southeast Asian nations' companies are bracing for impact, non-availability, shortages, and rationing as we speak right now. Which makes no sense when I hear the President of the United States come out and say that we will experience food shortages. And Jamie Dimon says, whoa, hold on. Why don't we push an economic Marshall Plan for natural gas production, which then rolls back into, again, ammonia to start moving in on the raw materials for the fertilizer. And for me to hear this is completely, unbelievably unacceptable for the president to come out and say that we in the United States, one of the largest food producers on the planet, are going to have a food shortage. That's planned if it is, truly planned. If they can come out with this Emergency War Production Act and move you into green solar panels and like move an entire industries plural, into producing solar panels, well, at that, no, stop there. It needs to flip over a switch and go back into farm inputs first. Fertilizer first, herbicides second, free fuel for the farmers so they can plant, till, and produce the food, and free machinery, repair parts to those farmers first, in line of everybody else. First, second, and third person in line. You're out of the way. Farmers get precedent over you, period. That's the way it should be. This is completely unacceptable to say that we're going into food shortages in America. Unacceptable. Anywhere in North America at all. It's a slap in the face to even consider anything else. And, you know, at this point, what can you say about the leadership that they're actually telling you that you are going to starve in America? There's many things with Jamie Dimon I totally disagree with, but on this point here about Marshall Plan, whatever you want to call it, there's been many plans that have moved entire worlds and industries. We need to go to the farm production, farm inputs first. Energy as well. We need to eat. I don't care if I give you free solar panels. If you're starving and you're so malnourished that you can't even get up to flip the switch to turn it on, I don't really think free solar panels or solar panels in general are really going to help you. Society collapses when there's no food. It's been like this through history, and it looks like we're repeating it. Russia controls a huge, huge amount of fertilizer across the world. It's time for the United States and Canada to step right up and say, you know what, we're going to start producing fertilizers, the resources we have, and then export to nations that can't get it, because nobody should go hungry on this planet. With the amount of interconnectivity and resources and wealth and transportation that we have up to this point, the most ever in human history ever, there should be never a single person on this planet that goes hungry, ever. And I had a really good interview with Mike Adams talking about some of these same issues last week. And before the interview was even ready to air, somebody just stole 8,000 pounds of organic pinto beans in transit from the warehouse where they were going to pick up to fill up their food buckets for their emergency long-term storable foods at the Health Ranger over there in Dallas. Now there's commercial level food heists in America, thefts by the pallet, and we're not even at the shortages yet. So when BlackRock speaks, we should listen, not because we like them, but because they're in control of the world's properties, mines, factories, transportation systems, and control trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of assets. So coming to the end of globalization, you might want to take that seriously and understand why everything's breaking at the moment. It seems like it's being pushed, because I saw an interview where they were talking specifically about they are going to push society in a certain direction. Okay. But now Putin wants rubles for gas. Rest in peace, petrodollar. I totally agree. Now remember, we have the friendly countries and the unfriendly countries where exports may still make their way to, but now it looks like the petrodollar is going to be replaced by the petro Bitcoin. Russia's open to selling natural gas for Bitcoin, including gold, and their central bank's buying an enormous amount of gold. And perhaps Bitcoin to be part of this as a settlement mechanism. But here's the thing that, dovetails directly into this. London Metals Exchange imposing a 15% limit on all daily price moves across all metals, all of them. Remember, they suspended nickel for a while, reversed everybody's trades because the Chinese billionaire was getting wiped out. So here is the countries Russia has deemed enemy and foe, the naughty list in pink. Anything there, nothing Russia touches. And they will no longer accept dollars or euros for any energy deliveries of any of the countries in pink. Unfriendly states, but they will accept the ruble. So see, Russia put everybody back into the corner here. The energies, the pivot, and the gold, and the fertilizer, and the palladium, and the industrial precious metals controlled widely. Russian exports, look at that, 27% of all Russian production of palladium heads to the United States. So you can see the conundrum there. 25% of the palladium has been cut off from coming into the United States, actually 27%. Where does that come from if the major producer supplying a quarter of all that suddenly evaporates? Energy woes, supply chain woes, mining woes, shutdowns, intertwining banks that might be included in Russia have to shut production because of the sanctions. Everything's stopping on a dime right now. So where does the precious metals come from that we need for high-tech manufactured goods? Now, I don't have that answer, but I have a list here of the major palladium producers, and we can see where United States politics is going to swing over to be friendly with some of these, guaranteed. So Russia produces 40% of all the mined palladium in the world, and of that 40%, 25% makes its way to the States. Now, South Africa, major producers as well. Canada, Zimbabwe. Now, Montana. See, this goes right back into what Jamie Dimon was talking about, is coming in with some sort of Marshall Plan or War Powers Emergency Manufacturing Act and pushing in a huge amount of resources in to take this 5.1% upwards. So it gives you just a very small handful of players, which you can put all in one hand, by the way, 5. That 2.2% of others, negligible. But we'll take a look at the silver COMEX futures. Now, if you had some inside information and knew the economy rug was being pulled on purpose and you had a certain amount of months to get ready for a full economic meltdown to near zero, and you knew that precious metals such as gold and silver would ride through and contain your wealth through this storm, the extraordinary new contracts moving into silver should tell you something right there. That's another Loch Ness. See, everything you're looking at, vertical, 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 and then we're going to go right down to Singapore. Physical gold and silver hoarding in high gear, higher, and it's going to go to the highest probably in about 2 weeks or less. Weekly revenue of this gold seller and silver seller down in Singapore, 5.4x, 546% increase. Average order size, almost 3.5 times larger than the normal. So if you were going to spend $1,000 on metals, looks like they're spending around $3,400 on metals. And the median order size doubling. Now, these are just weeks totals here, not years, but weeks, how quickly everything has jumped into hyperinflationary vertical spikes of all commodities. Now, if you knew the rug was being pulled, like I said, and this economy is going to collapse, you would try to protect your wealth in some sort of commodities. Well, we're going to come into a commodities hyperinflationary spike wherever you look. Whatever you buy that's a tangible thing that can be held in the hand is going to spike in price. So we're looking at the fertilizer inputs spiking in price. Shortages on the fertilizers anyway. Coming into this, there was about a 13% global shortage destined for this year's planting, regardless of what happened in Russia. And the same supply chains were true for herbicides coming in, also knocking crop yields down, not enough herbicides, shortage in that. But then we're now looking at these hyperinflationary spikes in fertilizers and raw materials for fertilizers. You can't keep rationing diesel and expect that farmers are going to be able to put in a full crop. You know, because the world's running on genetically modified seeds. What happens if you don't get the Roundup or the glyphosate to accompany that? Well, you're out of luck. Those weeds are going to be tenacious and compete with the corn or the wheat coming up in the fields. And just everywhere you look, there is a collapse of everything at the moment. And it is being strung along as long as it can be. I mean, these are all huge, gigantic signs that we are heading into something unseen in history. I would say unless we step back to, say, 535 AD, at the full true collapse of the Roman Empire. You know, there were collapses of regions within the Roman Empire prior to that. But 535, there were volcanic eruptions that wiped out food production for about 3 years. And this is a huge lineup here of events saying, you got to learn how to grow your own food, get with your community. Storable Foods, My Patriot Supply. That link's in the description box below, along with tonight's images and stories and everything that you need to chase down some of these graphs and stories to talk to family members about. And this is what it's all about, is bringing people on the same page. So if you're talking with your family member, that you can back it up with some of the data to get them in the conversation too, because we are all going to need to work together community-wise, individuals, families, neighborhoods, cities. So I wish you the best of luck in your preparations. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. And also, Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast, anywhere podcasts are hosted across the net. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast feed with Mini Ice Age Conversations. You can find me over on BitChute, write to you on Telegram at Adapt2030. I do thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.